You must have seen a lot of historical sketches and artworks, but today I'm going to share some historical photographs taken with a camera. Of course, cameras in the 19th century were very different from those we use today, so let's briefly review how these photos were taken. The first camera in history was the camera obscura, invented by the Persian scientist and mathematician Ibn al-Haytham in the 11th century CE. However, the concept was also observed by some ancient thinkers. You might be surprised to learn that this device wasn't capable of capturing photos. It was only used to project images. The first camera that actually captured an image was invented in 1826 by Joseph Nicéphore Niépce. We will discuss this in detail in our next video, which is dedicated to the invention of the camera. Now, coming back to our topic, the 5 most historical photos. View from the window at Gras is the first ever photograph captured by a camera. This picture was taken by Nicéphore Niépce in 1826 or 1827. This groundbreaking image marked the beginning of modern photography. Niépce used a process called heliography to capture it. The photograph was taken from the upstairs window of Niépce's family estate, which was known as Gras. That's why it was named View from the Window at Gras. He captured a courtyard, scene featuring a rooftop, a tree, and several buildings. Due to the long exposure time, the image lacks sharpness and has a grainy texture. However, it successfully preserves the basic shapes and contrasts of the landscape. This image was revolutionary because it was the first time a view of the world had been permanently fixed onto a medium, unlike earlier temporary projections by the camera obscura. Nowadays, we capture photos with just one click on our phones, but it took Niépce almost 8 hours to capture the first photo. You have seen the first captured photograph, but this one holds a unique significance. It is known as the first image to capture a human. This photograph was taken by Louis Daguerre, the co-inventor of the daguerreotype process, in 1838. The scene depicts Boulevard du Temple, a busy street in Paris, France. It took Daguerre about 7 to 10 minutes to capture the photograph. Due to the long exposure time, most moving objects did not register in the image. However, a man having his shoes polished by a shoe shiner remained still long enough to be captured, making them the first humans ever photographed. This photograph was captured by John T. Daniels on December 17, 1903. The scene includes the Wright brothers' historical achievement of the first powered, controlled, and sustained flight. The Wright brothers had set up a Corona view camera and instructed Daniels to press the shutter bulb when the plane lifted off. In this photograph, Orville Wright is lying face down on the lower wing, controlling the plane, while Wilbur Wright stands to the right, observing the flight after releasing the aircraft from the launch rail. The scene was captured on the sandy dunes of Kill Devil Hills, near Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, where this experiment was conducted. The fun fact about this photograph is that Daniels wasn't a professional photographer. He just followed the command given by the Wright brothers to press the bulb shutter of the Corona View camera when the plane lifted off. He just followed the instructions and captured this historical event. In 1969, a camera captured something that no human had ever seen before. This photograph was taken by Neil Armstrong and shows Buzz Aldrin holding the United States flag on the surface of the moon. This was the first time a human stepped on the surface of the moon, and this historic moment was preserved in a photograph by Neil Armstrong. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin spent approximately 21 hours and 36 minutes on the moon, capturing this historic event on camera. Photography had barely begun when an incident took place that shocked the entire world. William H. Mumler, an American jeweler, later became famous as a spirit photographer in the 1860s. In this era, cameras weren't very common, people were new to this invention, and William presented photographs of dead people. He claimed that the spirits appearing in his photographs were ghosts. He presented himself as someone who could capture the presence of the deceased using photography. He gained popularity after creating a photograph of the recently assassinated American President Abraham Lincoln. However, he was later exposed as a fraud by P.T. Barnum. Barnum hired a photographer who used double exposure to superimpose two images onto the same plate, creating a ghostly effect. He even produced a photograph of himself with the ghost of Abraham Lincoln. Mumler was sent to court for trial. However, it is still unclear whether he ever admitted that these photographs were fake. This case shows how easy it was to manipulate photographs even at that time. So, from this video, we learned how hard the journey was and how photography was used to deceive people. But development never stopped, and it never will. I have mentioned the sources for this topic in the description box under each title. Our next video will be on the invention and evolution of the camera obscura. Make sure to subscribe and comment your thoughts on these photos.